Hello and welcome to Classic Vinyl Podcast. This is Justin and Tyler at you again.
Yeah, was that Mr. Pete Townsend on the guitar in that intro?
It sure was.
Oh, I thought so. It definitely wasn't Lord Keith Moon on the drums, but
Yes, it was.
no, it wasn't.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because it was just keeping rhythm. It wasn't playing the drums like Mr. Keith Moon does.
Well, it was in the live version, obviously, but today we're going to do one of my favorite bands, The Who, and we're going to do one of their first singles. Actually, The Who's first single. I can't explain, but let me give you a little history on the band The Who first. They're an English rock band formed in London in 1964. They consist of Pete Townsend, who's the main composer, guitarist, sometimes singer, Roger Daltrey on vocals, John Entwistle on bass, and Keith Moon on drums. And one thing I'm going to say, and you'll hear me say this on every episode we do on The Who, I think this is the best all-around band there is, and without a shadow of a doubt, the best live band that has ever existed. That's my opinion, but it's correct.
My opinion is that Mr. Keith Moon is the best drummer of all time.
I won't disagree with you.
And yeah, everybody else can be wrong about
And
that.
I think John Entwistle is the best bass player of all time. I think Roger Daltrey is most likely the best vocalist of all time. And Pete Townsend probably isn't the best guitarist, but to mix his guitar playing, which is excellent and fantastic and great, and he's definitely in the top 10 of all time, but he's definitely the best songwriting guitarist of all time.
For sure.
In my opinion. Pete Townsend, he actually met John Entwistle while attending high school in London. Entwistle joined the Detours with Roger Daltrey, and Pete Townsend soon joined after that. Keith Moon joined soon after that, which basically became the band we know as The Who. Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey soon came up with the band name The Who, but they changed their name to the High Numbers for a little while, but then back to The Who, which I think The Who is a perfect name for a band.
Fits better.
They sold over 50 million albums worldwide. They arrived in the U.S. on the second wave of the British invasion.
The reinforcements.
The reinforcements. They're known for their very chaotic live performances with Pete Townsend smashing his guitar, Keith Moon destroying, kicking over his drums, blowing them up, whatever he did. The funny thing about that really all started was an accident when Pete threw his guitar up in the air and it stuck in the ceiling, and people thought it was great. So let's just destroy our instruments.
Yeah, Roger Daltrey wasn't too happy about that because those instruments are expensive.
Yes, they are.
It costs a lot of money to replace them.
And although The Who had a lot of original success in England and coming over in that second wave of the British invasion, they didn't really become superstars commercially until the release of the rock opera Tommy in 1969. And that was especially for them big here in the United States. That helped propel The Who to one of the biggest bands of the 1970s, without a doubt. The farewell tour in 1982, which they're still doing farewell tours. I don't understand that. But the band got back together in 89, the late 90s, up until Entwistle's death in 2002. Townsend and Daltrey are still touring today, off and on. I don't know if they've called it quits yet. I think I've heard that they have, and I heard they haven't, so I'm not sure. I'd like to see them one more time. I've seen them a couple times. And of course, you had Keith Moon die in 1978, which essentially severed the band. I mean, even though they continued to tour after that and everything, they just haven't been the same without that backbone of non-rhythm keeping crazy drumming.
I knew that Mr. Lord Sultan Keith Moon had sold his soul to the devil to join the 27 Club.
I don't doubt it, but he was more than 27 when he died.
That's beside the point.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
So out of their albums, I mean, Tommy is their best-selling album of all time. It sold 20 million copies. And my favorite album, Who's Next, is their second best-selling album at almost 5 million copies. So that's the difference. That's how popular Tommy was. I mean, Tommy's been made into a movie. It's been on Broadway. It was big. And Tommy's not my favorite album of theirs, but I do enjoy Tommy a lot live. If you've ever had a chance to hear the whole Tommy thing live, it's great. All in all, they've had 12 studio albums, 10 from 1965 to 1982. They did have an album in 2006 and another one in 2019. They've released 16 live albums. Like I've said, they're the best live band of all time, in my opinion. Live at Leeds is an album you have to hear. Live at Hull is just as good. They're just amazing. They've got 27 compilation albums, 4 EPs, and 4 soundtracks. Now, the first 2 studio albums were different in the U.S. than they were in the U.K., kind of similar to what we've seen with a lot of the early Beatles albums. My Generation, which was their first UK album, was called The Who Sings My Generation in the US, a little bit different lineup. A quick one in the UK was called Happy Jack in the US. They had 10 albums in the top 10 in the UK. All their albums have been in the top 20 in the UK. Who's Next hit number 1. Quadrophenia, Tommy and Face Dances hit number 2. Now in the U.S., they had 9 albums in the top 10. U.S., they had Quadrophenia and Who Are You at number 2. Who's Next, Face Dances, and Tommy all hit number 4. It's kind of funny that Tommy hit number 4 in the U.S. and number 2 in the U.K., but it sold so many copies worldwide. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, make up your mind, people. How much do you love The Who, and how much do you really love The Who?
Yeah. So they've released a total of 58 singles. 14 of those singles were top 10 in the UK. Only 2 of them reached number 2. I'm a Boy and My Generation. 28 of those singles were in the top 50. They have not had a top number 1 single in the UK. Mm-hmm. So in the US, 19 of those singles hit the top 50. Their highest charting single in the US was I Can See for Miles, and it only reached number 9. As popular as this band is, historic as this band is, number 9 is the highest they ever hit on the charts in the US, I should say.
I'm ashamed of my fellow Americans.
And I mean, The Who, whether you like them or not, they're definitely the innovators behind some of rock music's most daring experiments. I mean, rock opera, feedback, destroying music equipment on stage, everything. I mean, they were innovators of everything, and that's why I love this band.
So it's okay. The Beatles can still be your favorite band of all time, but I mean, it's only fair that these guys be your favorite live band.
Fair enough. So, do you want to get to the song review?
Let's do.
And now it's time for the song review.
So, of course, today we're going to do The Who, and I Can't Explain. Tyler, what is your history with this song?
A little bit of passive radio play. I haven't really listened to it actively as much as like my biggest revelation on this podcast has been I love The Who. I'm surprised I haven't delved even further into their hits and their music.
Well, this is about as early as you get with The Who. This was the first single they released under the Who name. So this is early. This kind of falls into the same direction of when I've talked about the Beatles and stuff before. There's people that like early and mid Beatles and late Beatles. Some people like it all, like I do. But
so this is back when these guys are still wearing suits and ties.
Similar, yeah, it's similar. I mean, you got to realize this at the time. All these bands were doing covers, and this was an original song that Pete Townsend wrote. So it was released in the U.S. on December 19th, 1964, and for some reason not released in the UK until January 15th of 1965. This was written by Pete Townsend when he was 18 years old. So he wrote this pretty young. This was recorded at Pye Records in London and produced by the famous Shel Talmy. The B-side of this song was Bald-Headed Woman. Now, this was the first single, like I said, released under the Who band name. Their first single was called Zoot Suit, I'm the Face. It was released under the name The High Numbers. And this song reached number 57 in the U.S. and number 8 in the U.K. And, of course, they hadn't really hit big in the U.S. yet. They come over with that second wave like I was talking about earlier. So they just weren't huge in the U.S. at this point.
But their fans in the U.K. love them.
They did. Now, this also includes the vocal trio, the Ivy League, on backup vocals and hand claps. It's got Perry Ford on piano. Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin is on this song, playing rhythm guitar on his 12-string Rickenbacker. Some people, I've seen a lot of things that say he played lead on this, but he himself has said, no, he did not. Pete Townsend played on this, and you can hear me a little bit in the background. That's it. He says not very much, but he also played on the B-side song, Bald-Headed Woman. He played some backup rhythm guitar as well. So Pete Townsend says this song's pretty straightforward, but he started this song in describing a guy who can't tell his girlfriend that he loves her because he's taken too many Dexedrine tablets. And, I mean, that's where you get the dizziness in the head and the hot and cold, and you listen to it. But you can decipher that to be anything you want. It could mean love, right?
Yeah, this whole song is just, I'm not sure, baby. It might just be I'm stoned off my nut, or I might be in love with you.
Yeah, I can't explain any of it. So I wonder if it really is a straightforward love song, and that was something Pete Townsend said later to explain it off. I don't really know, but
could be.
It is certainly is a love song without a doubt. Now, this is definitely one of the earliest examples of The Who and their original songs. You know, they'd been playing covers like every other band did at the time. The Stones, the Beatles, the Kinks, all the bands around this were playing covers. That's just what you did. So when these bands started playing their own songs, it was kind of cool and different. Now, one thing about this song is this is what a lot of the UK artists were doing at the time, is they really didn't put a lot of effort into albums as much as they did singles. And so this single never made an album. In fact, it didn't hit an album clear till 1971. So 7 years later, and it hit the compilation album Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy, which is an awesome album name, by the way.
Yes, it is. If nothing else, it's
Yeah.
a perfect name.
So this song's been covered by a ton of artists, but most popular, David Bowie and the Scorpions. So Tyler, after listening to The Who, I Can't Explain, what are your thoughts on this song?
This song's really good. It's got this stuttering guitar open where it almost sounds like that there's something wrong with the playback, but no, that's just the way that they're playing it. And I think that they're playing it intentionally that way because they're trying to create that sensation of being on the smack, you know? I mean, if this kid's too drugged up and on the dope to know whether it's love or not, that's exactly the feeling that I'm getting here. And it's a stuttering guitar is the only way that I can describe it. Then you enter in with Lord Keith Moon on the drums and the tambourine, and I'm sure that he's doing them both at the same time. And then you have Mr. Entwistle, or I should say Baron Entwistle on the bass, holding the whole thing down steady, letting Mr. Keith Moon do his. I mean, it's like the bass is doing the job that the drums normally do, keeping the beat. Hey,
That's one thing about the bass in this group is this is kind of an early example, and why I say John Entwistle is the best bass player of all time, because he plays lead bass. Because Pete Townsend plays rhythm guitar, and you've got the bass, especially as you get into their later stuff, is a lead instrument in this. It's not just holding a beat.
Yeah,
So,
it's and it's strong. It's really good.
very strong.
The way that the singing in this comes across and the performing, I should say, it's reminiscent to me of the early Beatles. And that's probably because these guys are from the same British invasion, and there's probably some influence there as they're coming with the second wave of the reinforcements on the British invasion, taking the U.S. by storm. So, I mean, there's definitely a similarity that I'm picking up there between them and the Beatles, and I really like that. Let's see, Roger Daltrey, the lead singer, thinks it's love, but he's not sure. Could be, maybe not, because of the dope. So I'm taking the main message of this song to be, don't fall in love if you're on the dope. And then beyond that, Mr. Keith Moon, he's not abusing the drums, but they are definitely getting hit a lot and really hard. But I can't say he's abusing them. He's just disciplining them. What are your thoughts on this one, Justin?
I think this has got a great guitar lick to open up. It's a E-D-A-E. Pretty simple. I've played it on guitar quite a bit. It was one of the first ones I learned to play. It's an early song, and although I love the song, I don't really like the single as much as I like the live version.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, and we listen to the live version. It's much thicker. It's got heavy bass. It's got heavy drumming. Keith Moon going crazy on it. But speaking about the studio version, it does have good bass in it. It's got the tambourine. The drumming is, you listen to those drum fills in the verses at the end and stuff, and Keith Moon is doing double what anybody else was doing at the time.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just, and if you listen to the live version, Live at Leeds was the one we listened to tonight, it's even crazier. He's just got, you really need to listen to the way he drums, because where other people would fill a little bit, he fills a lot, I guess is about the only way to explain it.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Animal from the Muppets and Electric Mayhem. Do you know, was Animal based off of Keith Moon?
If he wasn't,
He should have been.
He should have been, because I don't know what it was based off of. But the funny thing about it is as crazy as Keith Moon is, it fits.
Yeah.
It works perfect. He does double to triple the fills of anybody else does. And to watch him too, if you watch him on video or anything, he's just crazy. He's crazy, and it's a shame we lost him.
Yeah.
It really is. In the single version though, it's got a short little first guitar solo that's not bad, and then it has a second solo that's a little bit longer. I've always enjoyed this song, but after, and this goes pretty much to say with almost every Who song there is for me, if you like a song sort of or even a lot, when I listen to the live version, they're the one band that I could do without some of their studio work and listen to all live. They're just an amazing band, and the way they were able to fill it with one guitar, one bass, one crazy bastard on drums, and the best vocalist to ever grace the stage, in my opinion, is amazing what they do. And I can't gloat enough over them. I love them. I really do.
This band is as big as their noses, and they have some really awesome noses.
I don't even know what you mean.
I don't know what I'm talking about either, but I love these guys.
So, do you want to get to the song rating?
Let's rate it.
Song rating.
Okay, if this is your first time listening, I'll break down our rating system pretty quick here. It's a 0 to 10 scale, 5 being smack dab in the middle, 10 being excellent. So that in mind, I'm putting this one at a very solid 8. And I feel like now that I'm saying that, I always do the rating initially after the listen.
Yes, because you're very easily influenced.
I am very easily influenced, and I know that I'm doing a disservice to all of the British royalty that is the Who. I think that, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Andrew and King Charles now, they're the facade. No, the real royalty of the British the British Empire is the 4 members of the Who. This song, it's definitely a 9, but I'm going to be true to my word. I'm going to keep it at an 8. Not my favorite The Who, but for being early stuff, boy, it's competent, and it's an excellent precursor to what they're going to be about, with the tongue-in-cheek in there as well. With this being like about, oh, I'm sorry, baby, I'm too drugged up to know if I'm in love with you, but I'll let you know when I come down if I still feel this way about you. That's hilarious to me, and that's why this song should be even higher, but okay, 8. Where do you put it, Justin?
We're not too far off. I don't gravitate towards the early Who songs that much, and when I say that, I'm meaning more their studio work, because we can look at songs like this and Happy Jack and Substitute and all their early songs. They're good songs, and they're not bad. I'd probably rate this song an 8. But when you put these songs live and they take those early songs and put them to what they have learned and playing heavy and hard and loud, it raises the songs to something new. I wish they would have taken some of these early songs and re-recorded them in the studio. But then again, maybe I wouldn't like them because I like their live stuff. I can't state enough how much The Who is the best band in the world when it comes to live music. But that's my opinion, but at least go check it out for me, if you will. So I rate this song an 8. I probably rate the live version a 9, so we put it in there somewhere. But
yeah, these guys, they definitely feed off of an audience that just puts them on their next notch up. It puts them top tier.
yeah.
Yeah,
they're an amazing live band. But that's The Who, and I can't explain. Send us an email and let us know what you think at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. And once again, we appreciate you taking your time to listen to us, because we're a bunch of blabbermouths. Don't really know what we're talking about other than give our opinion.
and we're having a good time doing it.
Yes, we are. But until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya. Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.